Everything gets sorted out this week. Week 18, the playoff field will be set. We're going to pick the winners today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5.
Joe, happy Victory Thursday to some of the college football playoff teams that played.
But not Texas.
And I was just getting ready to say, and that includes Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham and not the Texas Longhorns.
Garbage.
For obviously Texas wins in double overtime, but more so the clear and obvious targeting call on 3rd and 20 or whatever it was that would have put Arizona State in position to potentially get more yards at the end of regulation than kick a field goal to win the game. But
garbage.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great. I also so week 18 is here. We got Saturday games. We got the 2 AFC North divisional matchups. And then in the 1 o'clock slate, we have really games that are determining the top of the draft order. And then the playoff races are determined down the stretch, including the 1 seed in the NFC on Sunday Night Football. But I had a quiz question for you first.
Pop quiz, huh?
Yeah,
nothing worse than that. Walking into your high school biology class, find out you got a pop quiz. You better get sick and get out of there.
So cash spending in the NFL. Right?
It's a big thing for you. You talk about this a lot.
Concept of cash over cap and spending above the cap limit and doing that on an annual basis, thanks to the interest-free elements of proration of dollars and cash spent and the inflation of the salary cap on an annual basis, so on and so forth. But I want to ask you, if you know who has the number one amount of cash spent this year for their roster and talent, and what their record is this season.
The Cleveland Browns and whatever their record is.
Cleveland Browns are number 2.
Oh, there's one higher.
With $329.25 million in cash spent with a 3-13 record to show for it.
There's somebody higher than them in cash spending?
Yeah.
Philly?
Philly's number 3.
Oh, good.
With $326 million.
Aren't I good at this? I always get the ones except for the one.
They have a 3-13 record, of course. So they're very well represented in this hierarchy. And if you combine their record with the Browns, those two teams would be 500.
The Jets?
The Jets actually are not particularly high up on this list. 23rd in cash spent this year. Rodgers gave them a discount. They get a bunch of guys on rookie contracts.
Those are my two best guesses.
Who gave out
Titans?
No, who had a bunch of guys who wanted new contracts?
Oh, 49ers.
The San Francisco 49ers with $332 million in cash spent this year, and their record this year is 6-10. And then the number 4 team in cash spent this year, quarterback contract that was given out, the Jacksonville Jaguars with $318 million.
Oh, this is not a great story. This is not a great story here,
4-12. So you get 6-10, 3-13, 13-3, and 4-12 for the top 4 cash spenders in the NFL. Number 5 is Detroit, 14-2. The Dolphins at 6 at 310. The Falcons at 7 at 309. The 15-1 Chiefs are 8th at 296. Houston at 9-7 with 294. And then the top 10 is rounded out by the Chicago Bears with 286. And they are 4-12.
Not great, Kyle.
The Ravens play the first game this weekend on Saturday. They play the Browns, and they're favored by more than 3.5 or 2.5 touchdowns. 17.5 point spread. There's not a lot of question of who wins this game, right? I mean, the Browns are continuing to start DTR at quarterback, who hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in over 110 pass attempts this season, had 3 intentional groundings against the Dolphins. Just operationally, they're not a very functional offense. Baltimore's going to win the game, correct?
Yeah, I'm picking Baltimore.
Yeah, and if people are not familiar, Joe and I just picked the game straight up, and the show picks the game against the spread, which I'm not looking forward to this week with some of these spreads and who sits and who doesn't and trying to thread the needle with that. But the show does like the Browns to cover the 17.5 point spread. Predictably, I wouldn't touch it with real money, but
yeah, division game. I mean, the Browns won this game earlier this year.
I mean, they still got players on defense, and maybe Baltimore doesn't come in with a great sense of urgency to score a ton of points because I don't think they would need it, and they're going to run the ball, so maybe possessions are lower, but
they want to be the 3 seed for sure, though. You think?
Can we override the show here?
Yeah, it's us. We are in control of all things.
Yeah, but just like it's been whatever the formula said all year. But DTR starting as the Ravens, and there are 2 billion Pro Bowlers that they have on their roster this year.
Yeah.
I roll.
At home?
At home. Yeah. So we're going to override the show here?
Override. Let's hope
Ravens
we're not
covering 17.5. DTR. What are they? The Browns can score 3 points. Like, honestly speaking.
Yeah. If they get more than 9 or 10 points, I'd be stunned.
Yeah. Okay. Which brings us to Cincinnati's playing for their playoff lives. The Steelers still mathematically alive for the AFC North, but they would need a Ravens loss and then a win to do so. But the Steelers still have a chance to play spoiler for the Bengals in their playoff hopes.
Yeah.
But the Steelers are not going in the right direction.
Yeah, I do think seeding matters, though, for Pittsburgh. I think they want to be the 5 if they can. I think both teams will obviously play to win this game. It's going to, for Cincinnati, if they win this one, boy, it's going to be a long wait to find out because they need both.
7 p.m. on Sunday.
They need both Miami and Denver to lose. I think the logical choice here is Cincinnati, but I want to say that I'm not sleeping on Pittsburgh. Like, a lot of doubt that's been created over the last few weeks with their losses. You could see Mike Tomlin rallying the troops against a divisional opponent like this. But I kind of think that Burrow will score enough that I just don't know that the Pittsburgh Steelers will keep pace. So put me down for Cincy. But, boy, I'm not going to be surprised if Pittsburgh wins this game. Cincinnati hasn't beaten anybody good all year. This would be like their first quality win if they were able to get it.
I am with you on Cincinnati. I just, with the way that Joe Burrow is playing right now, Pittsburgh, yes, I think their temptation for the North will be eliminated because we think the Browns are going to, or the Ravens are going to win. And yes, seeding matters, but the urgency of we have to win to make the playoffs versus we have to win to go to Houston is just a little different urgency for the team. Cincinnati's been red hot, obviously coming all the way back the way that they have, and Joe Burrow's playing out of his mind. So I'll take the Bengals as well. The show likes Cincinnati minus 1.5 as well, which takes us to the 1:00 slate on Sunday. And let's sneak this one in here before the break, Joe, because it's the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons need a win and help to win the NFC South and make the postseason.
I think Atlanta's going to win this game. I'm also not sleeping on Carolina, but I'm not picking Carolina to go on the road and win a game where Atlanta has everything at stake to give themselves a chance here to stay alive. You got to be different on stuff. I know you're thinking about it.
Yeah, well, so here's the deal. I'm not going to chase you down. I'm behind you by 9 games. And I don't want to just sit here and pick the last 10 games different than you just to be able to mathematically say I have a chance to.
Spirit is to try to tell people who we think are going to win games.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So, I'm not going to be different just for the sake of being different. It is worth noting, though, Joe, you have 177 correct picks this season. With week 18 left to play, you had 173 correct picks last season.
Wow.
And through week 18.
Thank you.
So I had 172 correct picks. It came down to Sunday Night Football last week, a little bit more anticlimactic this year. But I currently have 168. So as long as I don't go 3-13 this week, I'll be better than I was last year picking games. And with that in mind, I'm going to throw caution to the wind here. and pick the Panthers.
That has not worked for you this year, Kyle. This has been
neither has picking the Falcons and believing in the Falcons. So I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. There's some weird outcomes this week.
No doubt.
Right?
You're right.
And the formula for spoilers, because people look at the Giants last week against I think there's two different formulas for spoilers. The Giants last week where Brian Daboll, he doesn't care if the Giants get the first overall pick because the writing's on the wall and he's out of there, right? It's almost an extra knife in the side on the way out the door if you're going to get rid of Brian Daboll, right? Mm-hmm. And the other one is young coaches who are early in their regime who have built some momentum and want to finish on a high note. And Atlanta having a young quarterback and Michael Penix in an environment where it's a high-stakes environment against a team that can play loose and has nothing to lose for, and they know each other well. And Carolina's had some level of momentum that's shown up at stretches this season. I know they got smoked by the Bucs. Give me the Panthers. And the show likes the Falcons to cover 7.5. So I'm on my own on this one, but I'm just throwing a couple darts here at the end of the season.
I think it's a worthwhile dart to throw, Kyle Crabbs. All right, tons of games to pick. We're going to start doing that here on the other side of it, folks. Stick with us. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories recently was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets for an upcoming game using the Game Time app. With Game Time Picks, I found amazing deals and could even see the view from my seat before buying. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Okay, so our next game for Week 18 is Washington versus Dallas.
Is anything at stake for Washington here?
I believe they've clinched a spot.
Right, but does seeding matter? I know that's a terrible question to ask.
Ask off the cuff.
Yeah, the worst for that.
Right, so they've clinched a postseason spot with the win against Atlanta, but they were mathematically eliminated from the NFC East with Philadelphia's win. So at 11-5, them and Green Bay are both 11-5 with games left to play.
Okay,
so they could be theoretically the 6 or the 7 in play. Presumably, although the Rams are sitting starters, I don't know how the tiebreakers come in for them in Tampa Bay if the Bucs win and the Rams lose.
Dude, I'd want to be the 3. Why would you want to be the 4 and host whoever loses the North? I think that's crazy. I'd want to go win that game.
I think the irony is that the Rams are one of the teams I actually have some confidence in being able to travel fairly well.
So we got to pick a game here, huh?
We got to pick Washington versus Dallas.
No CeeDee Lamb for Dallas. He's done, right?
Yeah, and I think that's. I know they found some running offense, but they're just out of ammunition at this stage of the season, right? Like
it feels like it, yeah.
So I'm picking Washington to win the game. They're motivated to win the game. Dallas at home, probably mercifully ready for this season to come to a close. The show likes Washington minus 4.5, thanks to the absence of both CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, which would be big boosts to their mathematical formula that we have. Chicago at Green Bay. And I know we just said there's some weird things that happen in Week 18. Ain't no way I'm picking Chicago to beat the Packers.
No, they're cooked. I think Chicago's cooked, man. And I think Green Bay wants to get a little momentum here going into the postseason. I think they got to start faster in games. I think they'll look to do that and get that done at home as well.
Joe, for as miserable is our two teams' recent histories of playing each other. This is one of the few rivalries in football in which it's been more lopsided than the Bills over the Dolphins.
What's this one?
The Bears and Packers.
Yeah, I know that. What's the
when's the last time the Bears beat the Packers?
I'm guessing a long time.
December 16th, 2018.
Okay.
And then the time before that was November 26th, 2015. And then the third win for the Bears in this head-to-head matchup is November 4th, 2013.
Boy.
And then the fourth win in this head-to-head matchup and rivalry is September 27th, 2010. Is the last time is the fourth most recent win the Bears have against the Packers is 2010.
So 4 times in the last 14 years.
Yeah. Pick the Packers, right? And that I think that's what makes that home loss Chicago had in November such a stinger, right? Is to lose on a block field goal. You had them.
Yeah, it's true. That's just how it goes.
But in a rivalry like that, when it's so one-sided, it'll be every possible way that it can go wrong is how it goes wrong. Like a franchise record field goal distance.
Well, I felt that coming. I don't know what to say.
So we're picking the Packers 10.5. The show is undeterred. The show is picking the Packers minus 10.5. Because I think the other side of this coin, too, and I think it's applicable for a team like Chicago, you have an interim coach. It's been a disaster season. Players ready to be done. And I think the competitive nature for a team like that or a team like Cleveland or a couple other teams that we're going to get to with big spreads, I think it's more likely than not that those teams are just going to be ready to get it done and over with. And the score will reflect that. Texans looking for win number 10 at Tennessee, where both Mason Rudolph and Will Levis will get some playing time.
Weird, right? Neither one of them is going to be around next year, right?
Correct. I mean, provided the Titans lose the game.
Right.
Don't win this game, Tennessee.
And Houston really, they're locked into the 4, right? There's not a whole lot going on.
There's no upside for them.
I kind of feel like Tennessee's going to win the game. If Houston's definitely not playing their guys.
Well, hold on. Well, did they play Pittsburgh or did they only play Baltimore? I know they played Baltimore and got smoked last week.
Houston, I don't think they've played Pittsburgh this year.
So they're like, that would be the theoretical. Although if Pittsburgh wins, they'd move to 11-6.
If you have I don't have the standings in front of me. Houston's 9-7. Yeah, they got 7 losses. So it would take a lot. And I don't know how all the tiebreakers work. I just assume that Houston's going to be the 4.
I mean, the logic of the game, the Baltimore game would eliminate that. And because there's obviously they've won head to head and they'd be moving to 12 wins.
Yeah. So that's over with. I think I am going to pick Tennessee.
Okay. I'll pick Houston. I think this is another one of those other side of the coin games that's totally reasonable. And if you're jostling quarterbacks to try to play well, now there's matchups I don't like for Houston in this game. They've obviously been a hot mess down the stretch. I think they'll be eager to bounce back from scoring 2 points against Baltimore, though, and go into the postseason on a high note. And Tennessee, I think, has some motivation to lose, as evidenced by playing multiple quarterbacks. What do you think of this whole? I'll ask you that after the break.
Stick with us. Kyle has a question for me after the break.
And for you.
The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a win. I love betting on which players are going to hit the over on stat projections, if a team will cover the spread. I love building parlays. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
As is always the case on Thursdays, the Thursday show is a walking advertisement for the FanDuel Sportsbook app because all of these ads are courtesy of FanDuel. What do you think? I don't know. I should probably ask this question when we get to the Sunday Night Football game. So I'm going to shut up.
Right.
So we tease the tease of the tease for the question that I have for you. Just remind me to ask it, or I'm going to feel like a real jerk. Jacksonville at Indy. Colts eliminated last week with the flop of all flops defensively. Drew Lock put on his Peyton Manning, ate his Peyton Manning Wheaties and his Tom Brady T-shirt underneath his pads apparently, and went crazy on the Colts. Am I crazy for thinking Jacksonville wins this game?
I think this might be the hardest game of the week to pick because on one hand, there's a lot of heat on Indy. You've heard a lot of messaging from players. And I don't know that they're going to rally. I just don't, for Shane Steichen. I have plenty of concern about that. Where Jacksonville's tried to compete lately. It's a division game. I guess I'm just going to go Jacksonville here.
Okay. And here's the logic that I have. Doug is very maligned with the media, but one thing that Doug has at least had some level of reputation for, and I think he hasn't necessarily always shown it this year, but he's always had the reputation of looking out for his players. And I think you look at that, and then you look at the situation that Indianapolis is in with the volatility, like you mentioned, and how things fell apart. And, Anthony Richardson is in and out of the lineup. And then Steichen goes to the podium and says, not everybody's going to be on time for everything. It just happens sometimes.
Insane.
Stuff like that. It's like, okay, the vibes are bad in Indy right now. And I'll pick Jacksonville because they have been playing competitive ball. Obviously, they won the game last week against the Titans. And what was it, the week before that they played?
Raiders?
No, they played the Colts the week before that, but then they played the Jets. Oh, it was the Raiders. Yeah. But then they played the Jets and played the Jets very close. So they played a lot of competitive games. I think the Colts are ready for this season to be over.
Yeah.
But the show does like the Colts -4.5.
That's an all-time bad quote from Shane Steichen.
There's been a few of those this year.
In a world where the standard is the standard, come on, man.
You run any organization, there's a lot of people involved. Not everybody's going to be on time to everything.
Gosh, boy, that's tough, man. I'd have irreconcilable differences with that if I was a Colts fan. I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
So as would I. I'm in the same boat as you. Bills versus Patriots. Patriots have every incentive to lose. Bills have no incentive to care. This is a sim to end game.
Right.
I'll take the better team with the better coach, regardless, and I'm picking the Bills.
I kind of think the Bills are going to win too.
And the show you mentioned will be a franchise record.
The Bills care about their records.
The Bills care about their records, trotting Josh Allen out there in Week 17 in 2020.
Yeah. They're trying to figure out who could be the 14th player to catch a touchdown pass this year to set a new NFL record. They care. Absolutely.
That is fun, though.
It's fun until somebody gets hurt.
No. You play that. You'll be fine. Speaking of bad teams that wear blue and red, the Giants are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who also, frankly, could care less about this game. It's already been announced that Saquon Barkley's not going to go for the Eric Dickerson rushing record. I don't think it matters. I'm taking the better coached team that has excessively more talent, and they're playing at home, and I'm taking the Eagles to win this game.
Is Tanner McKee going to start?
Does it matter?
Oh, we saw the Giants go out there and lay it all out there to win against the Colts. I guess I'll pick the Eagles, sure.
Okay.
These is an impossible week.
So I have a chance to come back and make this thing closer and more respectable.
These games are just freaking knows. The Colts and the Jaguars, the Texans and the Titans, okay. This one, Bucks need a win to win the South. They're going to get it too.
They're going to get it. I think they're going to win. The question is, how comfortably are they going to win? And I think when you consider how banged up New Orleans is and how Tampa's throwing the ball all over the field right now, I think they're going to win by more than 13.5.
Raiders
cover.
Raiders took care of them last week, man.
Saints, yeah.
Right.
There's not a lot of life left in that football team.
No. Bucks.
Now we're into the 4:00 slate.
Oh, finally some games that actually have some implications.
But not, this one does, but not for the road team. The Chiefs, who will be starting Carson Wentz, are playing the Denver Broncos, who are favored by 10.5 points. The Broncos win. They end their long, 8-year playoff drought?
Doesn't feel long to me, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Wake me up when it's 17 years.
Oh, you haven't played and by extension won a playoff game in 8 years? Wake me up when you haven't won a playoff game in 24 years, right? And I do not feel sorry for you one bit because you sold your soul for end stage Peyton Manning and got a Super Bowl out of it.
Yo, the Broncos, like if you're a Broncos fan that's the same age as me, you've seen enough success for me to not care about an 8-year playoff drought.
Right. Exactly right.
Get out of here.
And because of that, I'm going to be petty and pick the Chiefs.
I'm not in. I know, dude. A lot of people are in on Kansas City. I'm not. I think Denver's defense, their urgency,
they have a great defense.
Yeah, that defense gave. I mean, watching them, that defense give Burrow fits in the red zone and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I think the Broncos win. But picking against the Chiefs has not really worked for me this year. So here I go.
And the show is going to pick the Chiefs to cover the plus 10.5 that they are getting going into Denver. The Chargers, also playing for seeding purposes, are playing the Raiders at home without all of their starting defensive line. And that alone is itself for me to say, I'm going to pick the Chargers to win the game because I saw what they did to a defensive front that didn't have some of their key pieces in New England last week. Boy, I've seen enough.
Not great, yeah. Chargers.
The show likes the Chargers minus 4.5. We have 4 games left to pick, including the Rams sitting starters against the Seahawks, who are hunting for their 10th win of the season. Seahawks favored on the road by 6.5.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important for Seattle. Mike McDonald, year 1. 10-win season's nothing to be mad about. Right. The Rams have told us they don't really care about the game. Seahawks.
Seahawks. And the show likes the Seahawks. Given the Rams not playing some key starters, show like Seahawks minus 6.5 on the road. Dolphins at Jets. Jets laid down last week to a degree in which we have not seen many teams do this season against the Bills. Dolphins are favored by 1.5. I think you could probably make a venture to say if Tua Tagovailoa was confidently playing in this game, the Dolphins would probably be favored by 5.5 or 6 points. I think that's around where the line was the week prior before he got downgraded to doubtful and blew up all the sports books. Dolphins in rough shape on their offensive line if you're going through things that can go wrong for them. Where Kendall Lamb was placed on IR, that means they're going to be on their third option for right tackle. It's undetermined if Teron Armstead's going to be able to go. He had to take himself out of the game in the first half against the Browns.
Jets are down to their 5th right tackle, though.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Calais Campbell, people don't know this. He has $725,000 in sack incentives on the table this week.
What does he have to get? How many?
If he gets 3 sacks, if he gets 1 sack, he gets $300,000. If he gets 2 sacks, he gets $400,000. If he gets 3 sacks, he gets $725,000.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And you could tell because the Dolphins had all their backups in when they were up 17 against the Browns with 5 minutes to play.
He's out there?
Except for Calais Campbell.
and DTR's throwing intentional grounding.
Calais hasn't played more than 8 straight snaps in a game this season. And he was out there for like 20-something snaps in the fourth quarter trying to get these sacks. And DTR's got him wrapped around his waist and throwing the ball 5 yards into the stand.
Yo, that's bad.
Yeah, it was not great. Dolphins tried, though. I think they'll try to win this game. I think they will win this game.
You just went through this whole narrative about everybody in the world that's not playing.
I'm just saying everybody assumes the Jets are going to lay down and go.
I mean, you got DJ Reed out here saying he can't wait to get the free agency.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about a checked out team. I think the Jets are very checked out. Put me down for the Dolphins, but I am concerned about every meaningful player they have that's not named Tyreek Hill not playing in the game.
Right. Show likes Dolphins minus 1.5. And the other wild card here is Aaron Rodgers kind of openly acknowledging this might be it for him. And
got to get his 500 touchdown pass, though, right?
Right. So he going to be slinging it. And can you take advantage of what is sure to be some aggressive shots down the field with poor protection? And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, Chop Robinson and Zach Sealer's got to know that, they can't be getting him down on the ground if Calais is also around. That's going to be fun for them.
Right. Hold him up and then let him go. The 49ers without Brock Purdy will see their disappointing season come to an end against an upstart Cardinals team that just fell apart down the stretch. Arizona's at home. They're favored by 4.5 points.
What do we not know about this game and why it's this time? They just needed another game or what?
I think they just needed another.
There's nothing that matters in this game, right?
Correct.
It's been a trying year for San Francisco. I think Arizona wins at home. Ready for
Arizona wins at home as well.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs, the Pasternaut starting at quarterback for San Fran, with none of the skill players that make San Fran, with the exception of Deebo and George Kittle, but that's like really 33% of what has made their skill supported cast what it is. The show likes San Francisco plus 4.5.
Got Kyle Crabbs on here saying words like Pasternaut. How could you not love the NFL,
Right. That's right. Our last game, I wanted to make sure I saved enough time here because I know we got to get out of here in a couple minutes. What are your thoughts on the McCarthy, Sam Darnold, kind of some whispers that Vikings may keep Darnold and look to shop McCarthy in a bad quarterback class? And
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. Sam Darnold has had a great season, but I still think there's limitations there. I don't think he's got a very good feel for when he's hot and pressured. I think his turnover, he still hangs it out in some risky stuff, man. Like, you have an opportunity here to have an extended runway with a quarterback on a rookie deal that, quite frankly, I'm very excited about the ceiling and upside of J.J. McCarthy, especially in this environment with Kevin O'Connell and these weapons. Like, I'm sticking with it. And Sam Darnold, thank you for this great year, but I think this was a one-off season for Sam, and I'm sure he continued to be a good player for Minnesota. But you don't get to take all this stuff with him to wherever he goes. I know it's tough, man. That's a tough situation. I would roll with McCarthy.
Will you change your mind if the Vikings won on Sunday?
Well, I think that's the good news is you do get to see the playoff run, right?
Yeah.
They're not making that decision today. But as of right now, I'm still I think Darnold would have to get this team to the NFC Championship. I don't know, dude. Maybe the 1 seed. That'd be unprecedented. It's complicated. It's very complicated. But as of right now, I'm Team McCarthy.
So what do you think of this game? I'm very nervous about Detroit's defense.
Yeah, he should be
in this game. And they obviously have ball hawks on the back end and Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch but man, they've just lost so much. And Minnesota's playing well, and they have their own defense that has some absolute dogs in it. I'm pretty leery about this for Detroit.
I think Jared Goff's one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz, one of the best processing quarterbacks in the league. I think they'll have plenty of answers built in. I think the Lions are going to score, but I do think the most vulnerable part of this game is going to be Detroit's defense. And I think that Minnesota will have success, but I think the Lions will as well offensively. And I think they'll have enough wrinkles, to be honest with you, to put enough pressure on Minnesota. And I think pressure on Sam Darnold's not a world I want to live in. I think Detroit wins.
I have faded the Vikings for most of the season. I'm not going to do it here.
Well, it worked for you last week.
Right. So I'm going to pick the Vikings on the road in an upset, in part because I do have to close a couple games. That means we're going to be different on 4 games this week.
Well, look, if the AFC goes your way, the Dolphins are in. If it goes the way I predicted it, the Broncos are in.
Yep. So we have a crossover Thursday on the line next week. So lots to look forward to.
That's going to be me and you, or me and Cody Rourke. We'll find out.
That's going to do it for us here on the show. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, we appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We're out of here.